let's get to your Las Vegas Raiders, Joe. What do we have to talk about the Raiders? Another quarterback situation there too.
Another quarterback situation, but people are kind of overblowing this quarterback situation. Not as bad as the Denver Broncos.
Oh, yeah, I know. I understand that one.
A lot of people they're all pushing for, they think that Gardner Minshew is the landslide pick for the starter not because of what he's doing in practice.
He's the most NFL ready, Joe.
No, it's not even that. It's because of the contract they gave him.
Yes.
But the thing is when you look at the contract, it's the highest paid backup quarterback type of contract. It's not a starter like you're guaranteed to start. Aidan O'Connell is under a rookie deal. Aidan O'Connell, Antonio Pierce, and the whole organization have come out and said it's his job to lose. It's his job to lose. So I don't know where the mindset goes when they think Minshew's already going to take hold of it. But Aidan O'Connell, to be honest with you, like as of right now, going into training camp, the day one was today for the Raiders. Aidan O'Connell, he already still has the edge, is what it was reported, is that he still has that edge. He hasn't given up any ground, and they're going into training camp. I think that he ends up taking it no matter what, because he's already been there for a year. Like he's already got the chemistry of Devontae. Devontae's even signed off on Aidan O'Connell, saying, I like him as my quarterback. So I don't know where the whole idea
and that makes more sense. Like if I'm a head coach, I'm doing the same thing, because who's the new guy? You don't have a job. Say it's a regular job.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a manager at my job. Okay. I hire a new guy. I don't all of a sudden say, hey, the guy that I've had here, you know, that's still done pretty well and stuff like that, but I'm hiring a new guy that might have the same type of experience. I'm not pulling that other guy out of a position and putting this guy in instantly when I'm not even sure exactly how he's going to fit with this offense, if he will or not, and whatever. Even despite I'm not in control of the payroll, it's whatever, you know, they decided when they hired him. That would make no sense, because one, it's not good for that one person that's already there, morale and things like that. And what does that show even other teammates, or for me, again, employees, where you bring in somebody that they don't even know and you can replace just like that. Without even knowing what this guy is.
Doesn't send a good message.
No, it doesn't. And so you're going to stick with him until he shows you that he's incapable of doing it. You know, what you want to see is growth. And that's what you won't be able to do that if you see him for that little bit that you did last year and then yank him out when there's any little bit of pressure. We saw that with the Miami Dolphins at times back when they had Fitzpatrick. Yank out Tua whenever, you know, there was a little maybe sketchy spot. You know, we're not sure. Let's put Fitzpatrick in at this point.
I mean, you could.
And now look what he's doing now. When he just stayed with it, worked hard, you know, studied, bulked up, and looking like one of the better quarterbacks in the National Football League right now.
Even go back to like when Jay Cutler was a Dolphin and Ryan and Tannehill was still there. And they were swapping them in and out throughout the regular season. It was like, wait a second, what's happening here? So, So, I mean, I think the quarterback situation is going to figure itself out, especially training camp. I think Aidan O'Connell ends up winning it. You look at what he did, not in the first half of last year, but the second half of the last year when Antonio Pierce took over as head coach. A lot of things changed. The defense got tremendously much better. They were a top 10 defense after AP took over. He let Patrick Graham coach the defensive side of the ball, call what he wanted to call. And then the offense changed. It got a little bit more aggressive. It wasn't just pitch and catch for 2 yards. It was throwing it down the football field and attacking. And they did that with the likes of guys like Devontae Adams that everybody knows. Jacoby Myers, I'm as a Raiders fan, I was actually surprised in how good Myers actually is. I thought Jacoby Myers was kind of like this average type of wide receiver. Yeah, he gets the job done, but he's not a big playmaker. Man, was I wrong. This guy is electric. He's a great, second piece to this receiving core right alongside with Devontae Adams is amazing.
Yeah, because how many times have we seen that with the Patriots? You know what I mean? Just a product of the system. This is how they work. You put them somewhere else, they don't really perform as well. Like you said, though, Jacoby Myers really surprised you.
Yeah, and he was always that good, though. Like, and it even shows like with Tom Brady when everyone was. I myself, I'll say it right now. I swear, I myself thought that Tom Brady was a system quarterback for the longest time. He proved me wrong. He proved me that he showed me that when he was there with McDaniels, it was Brady. It was all Brady. And then when he goes to Tampa, it was all Brady. Like, it was just about him and how smart and accurate and a great quarterback that he was. So same thing going to the Myers. He was a much better player than I gave him credit for. They have a young up-and-coming rookie from last year who Trey Tucker, absolute burner, had some big-time plays for the Raiders, now looking like he's going to start in the slot receiver. My only problem with this is that the lack of depth is after you get through Adams, Myers, and Tucker, now you look at the backups. It's like Jalen Guyton, journeyman receiver who formerly with the Chargers. DJ Turner, another guy who's never cracked lineup or even gotten much playing time. So if any one of these starters go down, it could be a big problem where they might have to reach out to free agents that are left over and try to grab with them. But starting lineup, pretty solid. Aidan O'Connell, I think, is going to be a very solid. He's probably going to take another big step forward this year and what he was able to do last year. And then offensive line, I feel like was a big concern going into the offseason. Had a huge hole at guard. They end up drafting Jackson Powers Johnson, who I think is going to be an excellent player for them at left guard. In my view, was one of the best interior offensive linemen coming out of the draft. Team him up with Colton Miller. I mean, what a great tandem that is. Andre James, they lock him up. And then you look at Dylan Parham, who honestly, Parham, I wasn't thrilled with that left guard. They moved him to right guard, and they're saying that they've watched film on him and that he plays better at right side. And then the big enigma is right tackle. Nobody knows who the starter's going to be. Nobody. They got penciled in Thayer Munford, who's shown flashes, but he's got to earn this job. And there's other guys behind him that are all chomping at the bid. And then their other draft pick in the first round, a guy who a lot of people say that slid right to them and didn't see that the Raiders were going to take him, and Brock Bowers at tight end, a guy who isn't your typical tight end. He can also play slot receiver, can play in the backfield, run the ball, do a lot of different things. So I'm curious with this offense with Luke Getsy. Luke Getsy now comes over as the offensive coordinator, different view, different ideas, different concept. How creative is he going to be? Coming over from Chicago was pretty bland, honestly, in his offense there. Was it because of Justin Fields at quarterback? Was he limited in what he wanted to do? And now that you come to this team, you look at the receiving core, the potential for the offensive line, the running backs I'm not thrilled about. With Zamir White being the starter, no longer Josh Jacobs. That to me is a huge, it's a bigger hole than Raiders fans realize. Josh Jacobs was not only just a playmaker at running back, but also he just made things happen. Whereas none of these running backs that are there right now, I don't see that from any of them.
Right.
They're not going to be able to hand the ball off to Zamir White and be like, here, get us 10 yards. He's not going to have it. He's just a bulldozer. That's it. So concerns with running back, concerns with the depth behind receivers, and still don't have an answer at right tackle.
Yeah, I agree with you there too. And the way I'm looking at it, it kind of gears to me like they should go more 2 tight end sets with the wide receivers too, again, and kind of mix it around. Because again, after that, on your depth, if one of these guys goes down, God forbid, you're in rough shape.
It's funny that you mentioned that too, because Luke Getsy, that's what he ran in Chicago, was a 12-man formation, where you would have double tight end sets and you play off of that. That formation, I think, is going to be the staple this year for the Raiders offense. You're going to see a lot of that. You're going to see a lot of motion. You're going to see Michael Mayer, who's also another gifted tight end who they got a year ago in the second round. They're going to probably try to get real creative with these tight ends, with the receivers that they have, the formations that they have. And I feel like that's going to be the difference with Luke Getsy's offense this year with the Raiders versus last year in Chicago.
Yeah, and looking at the offense too, what I liked about this draft for the Raiders is it's not too often that you get a defensive-minded coach like, Aaron Pierce here. Antonio Pierce. I should know this. I'm just a Giants fan, lifelong, Giants fan forever. That he focused on what you guys really needed. You know what I mean? A lot of defensive-minded coaches want to say, hey, I'm just going to grab more of my guys. My defensive, let's go. And so which they did need some more help on the defensive side of the ball, because, hell, Max Crosby can't do it all, even though he really tried and really made a difference. He almost did. But I really like the idea that they did focus on offensive line, and they were able to get Brock Bowers, like you said, like a draft steal there. So I think it's a great another weapon here that could only improve your offense, and especially with the younger quarterback. And like we said time and time again, a quarterback's best friend is a good tight end, and he's
got two of them now.
Right there, two of them right there. Yep, absolutely. So on the defensive side, again, their key players right there, Robert Spillane and Max Crosby, still there, going to get it done and get theirs. But they did add some additions onto this defense, Joe. Let's take a look at the defense.
So here's the thing, too, is the D-line has now turned into a major strength of the Raiders going into this year. We all know Max Crosby, how dangerous he is. He takes on double teams, triple teams, and still makes plays. But the biggest deal this free agency period for the Raiders was adding Christian Wilkins from the Miami Dolphins. A lot of people viewed him as the best D tackle in free agency, not Chris Jones, because of how versatile he is. He's a hustler. He just like, he's kind of like Crosby in D tackle form. He just doesn't take a play off. He's 110% every down all the time and hustles like crazy. To put him next to Crosby, or however way they align this, because it's going to be interesting, is it's going to wreak havoc in the backfield, whether it be a run play or a pass play. Offenses, you're in trouble in terms of pressure. And then a guy who's kind of an unsung hero in Malcolm Kuntz was on the opposite side. He had 9 sacks last year, guys. 9 sacks as a D end. Kind of went under the radar last year, late in the season. Didn't play in the first half because Josh McDaniels, for some reason, didn't want him in there. Then when AP took over, said, hey, no, you're playing. Has 9 sacks in the second half of the season. Incredible. So look for him to take another huge step, because guess what? Contract year. He's looking for a payday. So he's going to look to boost up. And then you can't forget about the draft pick that they took a year ago in 23 and Tyree Wilson, who had all this hype, had all this, like, this dude is going to be amazing D end. He's going to come in, but he had an injury, and the Raiders doctors were okay with it, but they knew it wasn't going to be healed until probably another, like several months later, where he did play a little bit and he didn't look like anything special. And you're like, as a Raider fan or as a football fan, you're like, what's the hype about this guy? This guy's not doing much. Well, now they're saying in this offseason, he's 100% healthy, 100% ready to go. Looks like a completely new player. And now they're experimenting with this D-line, possibly having on pass rush downs guys like Wilkins, Crosby, Tyree Wilson, and Kuntz all coming after the quarterback. So something that's going to be exciting for Raider fans coming into this year is how they're going to be creative with this D-line rotation and what they do to attack offenses. But none of that, like Jim, you mentioned Robert Spillane. Robert Spillane, team captain, a guy who has been a career backup.
Yep.
And became a free agent. The Raiders saw something in him in the past regime. They signed him and has played miraculously well. A guy who was seen as limited in coverage, had 4 interceptions last year.
Yeah.
I mean, is a guy who's very difficult to run against. And then you got to look at the secondary behind them. I have an issue with the secondary. A lot of people are saying like, oh, they got Jack Jones.
I don't mind.
Jack Jones is fine. But honestly, like Marcus Epps, I like.
Yeah.
But after that, like Trayvon Merrick, he's not as good as everyone says he is. Yeah. He's not. They have a guy who's his backup in Isaiah Palamau, who actually played better than Trayvon Merrick when given the opportunity. So I hope that in training camp, things might get shaken up here. Maybe some things change. They got some young corners like Nate Hobbs, nickel corner, great player for them. But guys like Jacorian Bennett, and then they went and drafted like 3 other corners later in the draft that they're hoping that they're going to find, lightning in a bottle, and to maybe to shore up that other side of the ball, because they didn't do it in free agency. They didn't bring any vets in. So let's see what happens there. But I still feel like they have some holes still on this defense, especially in the secondary. But again, it's hard to argue where like maybe you don't need the best coverage because they geared up that front 7 to where they're like, we don't need that much time to cover.
Yeah, right. That's what I mean. Just give him a few seconds in there, and he can get it done.
Hey everybody, this is Big John from Grumblings Media, and I just want to say thank you for watching our content. If you want to support our efforts here at Grumblings Media, just smash the subscribe button right here, totally free, or just go ahead and consume more of our great content, click either one of these two boxes.